So the current game world here for Betrayal of Hope comes from the clusterfuck of terrible choices the party has made throughout the past 3 campaigns, and
Wait a
this
minute!
is the summary of their terrible choices.
I did not make terrible choices.
Multiples of your characters died in some of their choices, and they were not all good. I'll be nice and tell you that it's actually 4 campaigns. The Noxus campaign is a factor in the current world, but it did happen an extremely long time ago, and it is a mostly forgotten. Go ahead, do your question. Yes, very much so. You may see things from that campaign, you may not. It just depends where we go. So going from there, we had Tower of Discord. This really started a not a world war, but a faction rift between 2 of the eldest vampires. Then we went to Sea of Realms, where the war started to encompass more of the ancient races as well as more of the other races of the towns, humans, elves, all those fun things, as more and more got dragged into it. Winds of Change came about and gave the players kind of a last-ditch opportunity to stop certain events that had been set into motion. And we'll say that went very badly, including the group creating the lycanthropy virus, which has plagued the world. Correct. Yes, it is in TOD at the prologue that you all did that. You're still feeling the repercussions from the choices that happened through all these campaigns. To describe it in modern terms today, the country doesn't exist. This is about as bad as it could. Third world could be a pretty big upgrade. Cannibalism is kind of the only way to survive. It's a pretty bad place. There is nothing friendly here. Everybody's kind of in it for themselves. The civilization is down to 1 city that's remaining, and it's roughly the size of a single city block. So we'll call that organized civilization as far as all races are accepted, and things of that nature. There are some outskirts of civilization, if you want to call it civilization. They are not civil. You, of course, have cannibal clans roaming around. You have people who have made pacts with abyssal creatures. You have the vampires that are still running around in their own domain. You even have some dragons that are out free. You're asking if there's undead? It does not. They are considered of the ancient races, and they are part of the... So you have 2 major factions. You have the ancient races, and then you have everyone else. Ancient races being dragons, vampires, djinns, genies, all that sort of plethora of elders. They even have one very old witch, who, in fact, kind of not on either side, but if you had to stick her on a side, you'd put her on the aim. She's definitely not interested in helping players. So Hope was formed roughly 10 to 15 years ago. This was a military outpost that has somehow been able to hold their ground under quite some dire conditions. People have more flocked to this little outpost. It's probably more of an appropriate word to describe it. Its general is very seasoned in warfare. They haven't stopped fighting since day 1. Hope is continually besieged daily, sometimes multiple times a day. They come under attack. So living, breathing war is just part of everyday life in Hope. That is correct. It's actually what would be the center plaza is where Hope is actually found, which would have been one of the most larger, almost a metropolis-sized city. It's now completely in ruins. Some of the buildings still stand, but they're not stable. So you definitely have the metalworking side of it, where you would have metal buildings. I wouldn't go so far as to be like steel buildings, but definitely probably some iron structures and things of heavier natures for sure. Definitely iron wall. Gunpowder has been created, found, and is used in weapons as well as explosives. So you do have things like muskets, cannons, pistols. No modern day type of munitions, but definitely you have some rather large explosive devices. There are lots of problems in Varilla currently. and just on a global scale. You have the scarring of the sky that is still there from the massive abyssal hole from when Cthulhu was summoned in that has never closed. You have these sections of the world that are just completely corrupting spells. I spoke briefly about such as a paladin summon steed spell, depending where they're at in the world, and I gave Kismet, who was playing Godric, the description of when he summoned his steed, his paladin class mount. It actually came out as an abyssal nightmare, and it was not pleased to see him. So things are very tainted depending where they are in the world. That's one thing you all may choose to solve. You may choose to look into the sky issue. You may try and reclaim some land. You could try and secure hope. It's very open option-wise, and there's going to be a lot of paths and pulleys working and forces that want the party and the players to accomplish certain things. But a lot of the players have their own agendas as well. So it can if the party decides it should. So there is no overarching world goal for the players on this one. There is several options that can affect the world. If a player wants to come in and try and fix the world, those options are available to them to attempt to do such a, and the forces that are in there to stop them from doing such a. Not everybody will be pleased with returning the sun. Not everybody will be pleased with closing said portal to the abyss. Those that travel that portal will be most unhappy. So the overarching goal, if you had to have one, is going to be to save the world or not. Do you want to just survive? Can you survive in this world? Is this now acceptable from how we've gone now 4 campaigns of a more standard general world to where it has become this perverted sadist type of cannibalist world that has been created by players and outside forces? Is it worth fixing? Is it worth saving? And players throw their hands up in the air and say, "Fuck it, this is not going to work." As cliche as it seems, combat is not always the best option. The players, like you all, are going to see a lot of things that are not right. This campaign is really built to test you morally. Some of these questions will test your character's morality and your personal morality. Can you handle doing said things, or see some of your party's members commit these acts, or even wandering about and seeing said acts being committed? Combat's not going to solve a lot of this. There is hack and slash. You will have some combat. I advise players to pick and choose said battles very carefully. There are a lot of things wandering this world right now that should not be messed with without a lot of friends. And the party will need to make those contacts should they decide to go and hunt down Cthulhu or some of the elder races, or take on a djinn or some of the elder dragons. I'm sure you probably don't want to do that with the party at level 3. You may want to have some more under your belt. But definitely this should be more looked at as a psycho thriller than a hack and slash or an RP. You're going to have a lot of both, but it is going to be tough for my players, I expect, probably emotionally and morality wise, of what they're willing to do to survive. So survival horror, if that genre fits better. It is loaded with Easter eggs. Whether or not the party goes down those paths to choose and find all of them, but it is chock full of them, yes.